What's up, Ragin Nation? My name is Alex Yu and you're watching the Ragin Ronin review. And in the last video, I did a review for the Hunger Games and I did it without any spoilers. So that was a non-spoilerific review. So now I want to do a talk back and discussion about the movie filled with spoilers, just because, well, I really want to talk about it. The movie's still fresh in my mind and there's some questions that I need answered, and I never read the book, therefore maybe some of you guys can help me out here. So what I want to talk about is, of course, the things that I liked about the movie and things that I didn't like about the movie, or I would rather say that could be improved, because I did give the movie a 9 out of 10, so it's a near perfect movie, and these little things that I thought that could be improved are really minor things. In fact, if all these things were improved, it would just add an extra point to it, making it a perfect score at 10 out of 10. So first, let me talk about the things that I did like. I love the characters and the story, of course. The whole concept itself is just brilliant. And the character of Katniss, I just absolutely fell in love with her. Just because we are focused so much on her character to the point that you want her to survive. You want to root for her and you're just hoping for her survival and just make it out alive. So because of that, Gary Ross did a good job for making us feel for her character, and I also like the way it ended. It was actually very creepy. You end it with Donald Sutherland's character, I don't even know his name. I guess he's the president of the Capitol, and then you see him walking off, and then that song by Arcade Fire, I think it's called Abraham's Daughter, it starts playing, and then it's kind of creepy actually, but it leaves you wanting more. You want to know what happens next. And actually when I got home, I researched when is the next movie coming out, and apparently Catching Fire will come out on November 13th of 2013. So I'm really excited about that. And when you see yourself wanting more, like not wanting the movie to end, that means you watched a really good movie. So this leaves me to talk about the things that I thought could be improved. And everybody is going to agree with me that the camera work could be improved. When I was watching the movie right at the very beginning, the very first thing I noticed was that the camera was like like this, like the guy was drunk or something. And I just was like just worrying for the film, because for a film that is so highly anticipated and something that I'm really excited for, I want to like this film. I want to have a very positive experience. So I was a little worried at first when I started seeing the camera so jittery. Later on, when it brought us to the fight scenes, that's when it annoyed the shit out of me. Just because, man, can we please just hold the camera still so we can see what the hell is going on? And a lot of people have kind of been defending it and just making comments about why it did that. And that was because they said that, well, they're trying to make a PG-13 movie. Well, last I checked, The Bourne Ultimatum was rated PG-13, and they did a really good job showing an action sequence with camera shake. And they did a really good job with that. And I'm just thinking, why couldn't they have done that? So the camera work obviously could have used some work. Another thing that I felt could have been improved was that I wanted to learn more about the other tributes. I felt that there was not enough characterization for any of them except for Katniss and Peeta. The movie was focused completely on Katniss's character, and that was actually a good thing, don't get me wrong. I really like that because it made me care for her character, but I want to know why we should fear for these other characters. I want to know why we should hate these other characters, and I want to know why I should feel sorry for this other tribute's death. And we didn't get to see any of that just because, well, I think it had partly to do with, or completely to do with, the movie's running time. And by adding all these little elements, that would have compromised the movie's running time, because it's already at 2 hours and 22 minutes and they have a lot of stuff to cover. And apparently this is the director's cut of the film. There is no other version of this film, like an extended edition. That's what Gary Ross claimed. So I thought that was a bit of a letdown, because I want to know more about the Cato character. He is supposed to be the tribute antagonist of the film, and he is the one that they fight at the very end of the movie. So because of that, I felt he was a bit of a weaker villain. I don't mean weaker in terms of physical abilities, I mean that he's a weak villain overall, just because we know nothing about this guy other than he's the jock. He's the guy that is a douchebag. You know what I'm saying? So that's a bit unfortunate. And which brings me to talk about these little controlled events that happen in the Hunger Games, and that is in the form of forest fires, fireballs, and these mutant panthers. And I thought that was a little bit too convenient, just because I want to see humans fight other humans. This Hunger Games, after all, was about these kids killing each other. And once you add these other elements, it takes away from the shock value of this game. So I felt that, man, that was kind of gimmicky. They didn't really need that. I felt that it would have added more psychological terror had the Hunger Games been completely about a human versus human duel. Now the silver lining in this part is that those gimmicks did work. It helped maintain the excitement in the movie. These are little action beats in the film, because during the third act of the Hunger Games, it does slow down. Like, the momentum in the movie does start dropping. So they need to do these little gimmicky things to keep it going. So it worked, but I would have preferred to see a more human versus human kind of thing. Another thing that I want to talk about is that I was really invested in Katniss's character, and therefore I want her to survive. I was really absorbed into the third act of the film because there's a lot of dangers out there. There's these 23 tributes that want to kill her, and they could be coming out of anywhere, like on top of the trees, behind a bush, or just creeping up on her. So I was thinking, why is she so calm? I felt the danger, but I felt that she didn't feel the danger. The whole time I was just thinking, like, watch your back, watch your back. Because when she's building a fire, or when she's getting something to eat, she wasn't constantly checking behind her, or she wasn't like, you know, I would be like that. And she's just a little bit too confident. So that kind of threw me off a bit, because I thought that there are 23 guys that are out to kill you, and they will not do that with any hesitation. So she should be a little bit more cautious. Another thing that kind of bothered me was the alliances. I just don't buy the alliances. At the beginning of the Hunger Games, and I'm talking about the third act of the film, there was a bloodbath. So at which point in time did these guys agree to stop fighting each other and say, hey, we shouldn't fight each other. We should team up and just hunt them one by one, and later on, we'll kill each other later. At what point in the movie did they agree on this? I know that this movie was just focused on Katniss completely, and like I said in the review, that is a flaw in the film, just because we don't know what is going on with these other guys. So all they had to do was include a scene where these guys just met up somewhere and they started discussing that, hey, we should team up for a little bit, and when the time comes, we'll split up and kill each other later. That's all they had to do, but they didn't include that scene. So therefore, I don't really buy the whole alliance thing. They joined forces, and they were hunting Katniss as a group. And when you really think about it, any one of them could have taken out all of them in their sleep, but it never happened. And in the second act, Haymitch was telling Peeta and Katniss, don't trust anyone, because there can only be one. So the whole alliance thing, I don't really buy that. Another thing that I felt was a little bit too convenient was those pods with the healing ointment and the soup. That was actually kind of cool, but what I found not right about it was that they all came from Haymitch. And I was positive that it came from Haymitch because it included a message and it was ended by the initials H. In the second act of the film, he was saying that you gotta win over the audience so they can sponsor you. And by sponsoring you, that means sending you help. Well, she didn't actually receive any sponsorship from anyone other than Haymitch. That means that Haymitch could have sent anything at any given time. He could have actually sent a whole bunch of stuff to help out Katniss. So, isn't that a little bit convenient? Can someone please explain to me, did he have to go through a lot to send those to her? Because when you really think about it, if those were all sent by Haymitch, then he could have just sent everything to her. He could have sent like supplies and weapons. So by Haymitch sending this stuff to her, it actually defeats the purpose of him telling Peeta and Katniss that they have to win over the audience. After all, she did get a score of 11 out of 12. What was really the point of that if none of the audience was sponsoring her? You guys gotta fill me in on this. Now I want to talk about the ending of the film, and I'm talking about the climax. Because of the lack of characterization in this movie, we never got to learn about the Cato character. We never got to learn why Katniss should fear him. I mean, yes, he is a guy who's good at fighting with swords and stuff like that, and he beheaded a statue, and whoop-de-doo, right? But then, did we really see him use that? Not really. The ending I felt was a little bit of a letdown just because it felt like the tigers, those mutant panthers, were more scarier than Cato. And also the crappy camera work didn't help in making Cato appear intimidating. And you know, of course, the ending will be the lasting impression for the audience. And when you have a weak ending, it just makes the audience not want to give the movie a higher score because of that. And I'd have to say that the climactic battle wasn't exactly as effective as what I had hoped for. Because there was actually a point in time during the Hunger Games where we don't see the character of Cato for a really long time, and then he just comes out of nowhere. And I'm just thinking, where did this guy come from? You know? I was just thinking, who should be feared more, these tigers or Kato? Anyways, I just think that it would have been a better climax had we learned more about Kato's character. And speaking of which, here's something that really bugged me about the ending. I thought that by winning the Hunger Games, you would be given citizenship to the capital, because they've just been through a lot. They just proven themselves, but they end up going back to the district and just life goes on. And it just feels like all they did was just make it through another year. They've been through so much and they don't get anything except for this welcome party when they go back home to the district. So what happens next? Do they just go back to their normal lives in the district and hunting for animals and barely surviving because they don't have enough food? I think the ending would have worked out better had they had been welcomed into the capital as citizens. And by doing that, I think it would actually add a dynamic story arc, because Katniss and Peeta would be living in the capital, but then they realize that this isn't for them. They're meant to live in the district because that is how they grew up. Even though it is a tougher life, they realize that this is their destiny, and that is to live their life in the district, because the capital is just so upside down. And they see that this capital, there's something very wrong with it, and it's not the life they want to live. I think that would add a lot more to the story. Anyways, that's all I have to say about the Hunger Games in this spoiler-filled talkback. Oh yeah, I just want to mention that I found it was really funny when Peeta and Katniss were about to have an intimate moment. It always cuts back to Gale. We always get to see his reaction, and it happens more than once. So that was kind of funny. But that makes me wonder why he would be happy to see Katniss, especially when she's holding hands with Peeta at the end of the movie. That was kind of questionable, because wouldn't he be thinking, oh my god, you two timing? Anyways, that was kind of weird. Maybe you guys can explain that to me. And please understand, when I'm talking about this, I'm reviewing the movie. I'm talking about the movie. I'm not talking about the book. These are just some things that bothered me and I found were kind of questionable. If you decide you wanted to comment on it, please don't say that, well, this is what happened in the book, because it's irrelevant to me. I never read the book. And to properly review a movie, you have to be unbiased. You cannot have your opinion swayed just because some things did or didn't happen in the original source material. Because if everybody were to review a movie that way, then this movie would have a very low score, just because I heard that it was missing so many scenes that were in the book. And there you have it. So now at this point, I want to open up a discussion, and you're free to talk about spoilers and to reflect upon these things I thought were kind of questionable about the story. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation, and also follow me on Twitter at Ragin Nation. My name is Alex Yu, and thanks for watching the Ragin Ronin review. I'll see you next time. Peace. First act, and it is the second act where you learn more about the characters, and it is in those two acts which have some of the greatest scenes, because that is where the character development happens, and it is where the